Admiral James Stone stood at the window of his office in the Earth United Council headquarters, watching the sunset paint Geneva's sky in shades of orange and purple. His weathered hands were clasped behind his back, knuckles white with tension. The message on his desk screen still glowed, its words burning into his mind. Colony ship Dawn's Hope destroyed. All hands lost. Galactic Council reports navigational accident. 3,000 lives. Men, women, and children seeking a new home in the Orion sector. All gone because some alien patrol ship accidentally fired its main guns during a routine inspection. The door chimed. "Enter," Stone said, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside him. Tom White, his assistant of 15 years, walked in holding a datapad. "Sir, the Galactic Council has responded to our petition." "Let me guess, Tom. Denied again?" "Yes, sir. Petition number 157. They cite the same reasons as before: humanity's unpredictable nature and emotional instability." Tom's hands shook slightly as he read. "They've attached a recommendation for another 50 years of observation period." Stone finally turned from the window. At 65, his face carried the lines of someone who had spent a lifetime being patient, diplomatic, and understanding. His gray hair was still neatly trimmed to military regulation, and his blue eyes remained sharp despite the years of staring at diplomatic reports. "Tell me, Tom," he said quietly, "how many ships have we lost this year to accidents?" "7, sir. Dawn's Hope makes 8. "And how many trade routes have been denied to our merchants?" 23 new rejections this quarter alone. "They're citing safety concerns again." Stone walked to his desk and pressed a button. A holographic display sprang to life, showing the galaxy with human-controlled space marked in blue. A tiny bubble compared to the vast swaths of alien territory in green. 50 years ago, they said we were too young as a species. 30 years ago, they said we needed more time to develop. Now they call us unstable. He touched another button, and red dots appeared across the map, each one a human ship or colony lost to accidents. "Sir," Tom hesitated, "there's something else. The Council has issued new guidelines for human vessels. All ships must now submit to enhanced inspections. They're citing the incident near Alpha Centauri. The incident they caused." Stone's voice remained calm, but his eyes flashed. "When their patrol ships forced our medical transport into an asteroid field." "Yes, sir. They're using it as evidence that we need supervision." Stone sat down heavily in his chair. On his desk stood a small frame with a photo of his granddaughter, Amy. She was 6 now, already dreaming of the stars. Last week, she told him she wanted to be a colony ship captain. The comm unit on his desk beeped. "Admiral Stone." A voice said, "Priority message from Fleet Command." "Put it through." The message was brief, but its impact was seismic. The words scrolled across his screen. "Operation Thunderclap. Green light authorized." For the first time in hours, Stone smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile, but rather the expression of someone who had finally reached a decision long in coming. He looked at Tom, who had served with him through countless diplomatic missions and feudal petitions. "Tom, send a message to all Earth United commands. Authorization code Stone Alpha 77. Message begins. The time for patience has ended. Execute primary protocols. Confirmation required." Tom's eyes widened as he realized what this meant. "Sir, are we really?" "Yes, Tom. Humanity has tried their way for over 50 years. We've been peaceful. We've been patient. We've followed their rules." Stone stood up, his full height impressive even after all these years. "But they mistook our patience for weakness, our restraint for fear, our diplomacy for desperation." He looked once more at his granddaughter's photo. "No more children will die in accidents. No more colonies will be lost to navigational errors. It's time to show them who we really are." "And the consequences, sir." "The consequences." Stone's voice was soft, but carried the weight of 50 years of accumulated grievances. The consequences will be a moment that no species in this galaxy will ever forget. Deep within the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that didn't officially exist, Captain Mary Reed walked through rows of military officers. The underground chamber was silent except for her boots clicking against the metal floor. Above them, 3 miles of rock kept their secrets safe from prying alien sensors. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, reaching the front of the room, "Operation Thunderclap is now active." The holographic display behind her sprang to life, showing hundreds of dots scattered across human space. Each dot represented a ship, but not the kind the Galactic Council knew about. These were humanity's real fleet, hidden in plain sight for decades. "For 30 years, Reed continued, we've built our ships disguised as cargo vessels and mining platforms. The aliens see exactly what they expect to see: primitive human technology." She smiled. "They never thought to ask why our mining ships needed such powerful engines." An older officer raised his hand. "Captain, what about their spies?" "An excellent question, Colonel Baker." Reed pressed a button, and the display changed to show surveillance footage. "They've been watching empty shipyards while we built our fleet in underwater facilities and asteroid bases. Every spy report tells them the same thing: humans are exactly as weak as they believe." The room filled with quiet chuckles. It was a joke they'd all shared for years, playing the part of a primitive species while preparing for this day. Reed's expression became serious. The loss of Dawn's hope was the final straw. "Admiral Stone has given the green light. Show me our real numbers." The holographic display transformed. What looked like a few hundred scattered dots expanded into thousands of ships. Hidden vessels revealed their true positions. Fake cargo containers transformed into weapon platforms. Mining lasers became battleship cannons. "My God," someone whispered, "we really did it." "Yes, we did." Reed pointed to different sectors of the map. Task Force Alpha, disguised as a merchant fleet near Centauri. Task Force Beta, hidden in the Jupiter shipyards. Task Force Gamma, spread through the outer colonies. All ready, all waiting. She walked along the front row, making eye contact with each officer. "For 50 years, they've pushed us around, destroyed our ships, killed our people, all while we smiled and asked politely for basic rights." The room was completely silent now. These men and women had spent their entire careers preparing for this moment, maintaining humanity's greatest deception. "The Council's arrogance works in our favor," Reed continued. "Their sensors don't even look for advanced tech in our sector anymore. Why bother? We're just primitive humans." Her smile was sharp. "Their overconfidence is our weapon." A young lieutenant stood up. "Captain, what about the Tesla array? Is it ready?" Reed nodded and brought up a new image, a massive ring-shaped device, our finest achievement, a weapon that can disable any ship without destroying it. Perfectly engineered to prove our point without causing unnecessary death. The Council thinks we're decades away from this technology. They're wrong about that, too. She looked at her watch. In 6 hours, Admiral Stone will address the Galactic Council. When he gives the signal, every hidden ship will decloak simultaneously. Every fake mining platform will reveal its true purpose. And the Council will learn just how patient we've been. The room erupted in quiet conversation. These officers had trained for years, maintaining perfect secrecy, waiting for this day. "One last thing," Reed said, and the room fell silent again. "Remember, we're not doing this for revenge. We're doing this to finally claim our rightful place. No more deaths. No more accidents. No more pretending to be less than we are." She straightened her uniform and looked at each person in the room. "Humanity is done asking for respect. It's time to show them why we deserve it." Dismissed. As the officers filed out, Reed stayed behind, watching the holographic ships glowing in the darkness. Soon, very soon, the galaxy would learn that humanity's patience hadn't been a sign of weakness. It had been a choice. Council Member Gray walked through the gleaming halls of the Galactic Council's space station, his four-fingered hand brushing against the smooth wall. Something felt wrong. After 200 years of watching over humanity, he had developed a sense for their patterns. And right now, those patterns were changing. He stopped at a large window, looking out at the stars. A human transport ship passed by, moving slowly and carefully like always. Too carefully, perhaps. Gray's antenna twitched with concern as he pulled up the latest reports on his datapad. "Computer," he said softly, "show me all human ship movements from the past week." The display lit up with dozens of paths, each one legal, each one proper, each one filed with correct paperwork, and each one completely wrong. Council Member Gray. A small voice interrupted his thoughts. He turned to see Amy, the young daughter of a human diplomatic aide. She was bouncing a red ball against the floor, something humans called a basketball. "Yes, little one. The adults are very busy with something important," she said, catching her ball. "Daddy says we're going on vacation tomorrow." "Everyone is." Gray's antenna stood straight up. Everyone. He rushed to his office, checking the logs. 17 human diplomats had requested leave in the past 3 days. 12 more had called in sick. All their replacements were junior staff with limited access and authority. On his main screen, he pulled up communications traffic from Earth. The usual chaos of human broadcasts had become strangely organized. Their news channels were running pre-recorded shows. Their social media was suspiciously quiet. Even their entertainment broadcasts seemed carefully selected. "Council Member Gray." His assistant's voice came through the intercom. "The council is gathering for the afternoon session." In the Grand Council chamber, Gray took his seat among the representatives of 50 spacefaring species. The main topic was trade regulations in the Outer Rim, but his mind was elsewhere. He watched the human observer in his usual spot, taking notes quietly. Too quietly. And furthermore, Council Leader Bright was saying, the human petition for expanded trading rights has been deferred again. Their emotional instability makes them unsuitable for. What if we're wrong? Gray interrupted, something almost unheard of in council proceedings. The chamber fell silent. Council Leader Bright's scales shifted color in annoyance. Wrong about what, Council Member Gray? About humans. About everything. Gray stood up, his antenna moving in patterns of deep concern. Has anyone noticed their ships are moving in new patterns? That their diplomats are all conveniently absent? That their communications have become unusually structured? They are merely showing proper respect at last, another council member said, drawing murmurs of agreement. Gray shook his head. Humans don't change overnight. Not like this. They're planning something. Planning. Council Leader Bright laughed. They can barely manage interstellar flight without our guidance. Their technology is primitive, their military power insignificant. Yet they've survived everything we've thrown at them, Gray said quietly. Every accidental ship destruction, every trade restriction, every diplomatic humiliation. They've endured it all with patience. Patience born of weakness. Someone called out. Gray looked around the chamber, at faces filled with contempt and amusement. Only the human observer remained unchanged, taking notes with the same calm expression as always. Too calm. What if, Gray said slowly, their patience wasn't weakness at all? What if it was something else? Something we've never considered. But the council had already moved on to other matters. Gray sat down, his antenna now flat against his head in resignation. He looked again at the human observer, who gave him a small, mysterious smile. In that moment, Gray understood, but it was already too late. The storm was coming. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with its usual activity as Admiral James Stone walked to the speaker's podium. His footsteps echoed in the vast room, drawing little attention from the assembled aliens. After all, they had seen countless humans stand in that spot before, always begging for rights, always being denied. Council Leader Bright barely looked up from his datapad. The human representative may present their latest petition. Stone smiled. Not the practiced, humble smile of previous human speakers, but something entirely different, something that made Council Member Gray's antenna twitch in alarm. "No petition today," Stone said quietly. His voice carried through the chamber without any electronic help. "Today, I bring you a declaration." Now heads turned. This wasn't the usual script. This wasn't how humans were supposed to behave. "For 50 years, Stone continued, humanity has suffered your accidents, your restrictions, your thinly veiled contempt." He placed his hands on the podium. "We have watched our ships burn, our colonies die, our children's futures shrink because you decided we were too primitive, too emotional, too unstable for equal status." Council Leader Bright's scales flushed with anger. "This is not the proper format for the proper format." Stone's laugh held no humor. "Let me tell you about proper format. 8 days ago, you destroy a colony ship. 3,000 lives ended because you wanted to remind us of our place." His eyes swept the chamber. "That was your last mistake." The chamber's force field suddenly flickered and died. Security alarms remained silent. Emergency systems failed to respond. "Interesting," Stone said mildly. "It seems your technology isn't working quite right, rather like how our ships always seem to malfunction around your patrols." Council Leader Bright pressed his emergency button repeatedly. Nothing happened. "What is the meaning of this?" "This." Stone pulled out a small device. A hologram appeared, showing the space around the council station. "This is humanity showing you what patience really means." The hologram expanded. Hundreds of ships appeared, then thousands. Ships that had been invisible moments before. Ships that were nothing like the primitive vessels humans were supposed to have. "We could have fought back 50 years ago," Stone said into the stunned silence. "We could have answered every insult with violence, every accident with revenge." He switched the hologram to show Earth's solar system, where massive fleet bases emerged from their hiding places. "Instead, we waited. We watched. We learned. We built." Panic began to spread through the chamber as more displays activated, showing human ships appearing in every major system. Not the weak vessels the Council knew about, but advanced warships that had been hiding in plain sight. "The funny thing about humans," Stone continued, his voice carrying over the growing chaos, "is that we're very good at learning from our mistakes, but we're even better at learning from yours." He pressed another button. Throughout the chamber, personal shields and weapons quietly deactivated. "You thought our patience was weakness. Our politeness was fear. Our diplomatic requests were begging." Stone's smile returned. "You never ask yourselves why a species that supposedly couldn't build proper warships had such powerful mining lasers, why our cargo ships needed such strong engines, why we accepted every insult without retaliation." Council Member Gray stood up. "You were waiting. All this time, you were waiting." "Yes," Stone said simply. "Waiting, learning, building, preparing." He looked directly at Council Leader Bright. "And now we're done waiting." The chamber erupted in shouts and demands, but Stone's voice cut through them all. "Humanity will no longer request equality. We will no longer accept your accidents or your excuses." His words fell like hammers in the sudden quiet. "You have 1 hour to decide. Accept us as equals, or learn why every species in history that survived first contact with humans did so by respecting us." He turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and those force fields you're thinking about activating. We turned those off days ago. You just didn't notice until now." The chamber doors closed behind him with a gentle click that echoed like thunder. Captain Mary Reed stood on the bridge of the Earth ship Thunder, watching as the Council's defense fleet scrambled into formation. Their ships moved with panic rather than precision, rushing to protect key positions they had only just realized were vulnerable. "They're powering up weapons, Captain," her tactical officer reported. "Let them," Reed said calmly. Admiral Stone said to give them exactly 1 hour. "We have." She checked her display. 43 minutes left. The Council fleet commanders were doing exactly what humans had predicted, gathering their strongest ships, forming defensive lines, protecting what they thought were their vital assets, but they were defending against the wrong thing. Status of the Tesla array, Reed asked. Charged and ready, Captain. All ships report synchronized and linked. Reed nodded, remembering all the years of preparation. The Council thought they knew everything about human technology. They'd inspected countless ships, examined endless documents, monitored all communications, and they'd seen exactly what humanity wanted them to see. Multiple Council ships approaching weapons range, Tactical reported. They're demanding our surrender. Send no response, Reed ordered. But patch me through to all Earth ships. When the channel opened, she spoke clearly. All ships, maintain position. Remember your training. We're not here to fight. We're here to demonstrate. 38 minutes left. Council ships began firing warning shots. Energy beams flashed past human vessels, carefully calculated to miss but show power. Reed almost smiled. They still thought this was about weapons. Council flagship is broadcasting, Captain. Communications reported. They're threatening to declare this an act of war. Record everything, Reed ordered, but maintain silence. 25 minutes. The Council fleet's formation had solidified. Their biggest warships formed an impressive wall of firepower. Behind them, smaller vessels moved to protected positions. Their electronic warfare units tried to penetrate human defenses. Their sensors sought weaknesses. They found none. Tesla array fully synchronized, engineering reported. All ships in position. 15 minutes. The Council fleet commanders were getting nervous. Their perfect formation began showing cracks as some ships edged forward while others held back. They had never faced an enemy who simply stood silent, waiting. Captain. Tactical called out. They're powering up their main weapons. 10 minutes. The Council flagship launched a final warning. They would open fire in 5 minutes if the human fleet didn't withdraw. Reed watched the countdown timer on her display. 5 minutes left. All ships, Reed broadcast, prepare for Phase 1 demonstration. Tesla array operators to primary stations. The Council fleet's weapons reached full power. Their targeting systems locked on. Their commanders probably felt confident, facing what they thought were converted mining ships and cargo vessels. 1 minute. They're about to fire, Tactical reported. Perfect timing, Reed said. Begin demonstration. The Tesla array activated. There was no flash of light, no beam of energy, no visible effect at all. But across the Council fleet, ships suddenly went dark. Weapons powered down. Engines stopped. Even emergency systems failed. In the silence that followed, Reed opened a channel to the now powerless Council fleet. This is Captain Reed of the Earth ship Thunder. What you just experienced was a demonstration of the Tesla array, a human weapon that can disable any ship without causing harm to its crew. We've had this capability for 15 years. We chose not to use it until today. She paused, letting that sink in. Your ships will regain power in exactly 10 minutes. When they do, remember this, we could have built weapons to destroy you. Instead, we built ones that only disable. We could have struck without warning. Instead, we gave you time to think. We could have attacked at any point in the past 50 years. Instead, we waited. Reed looked at the silent Council ships floating in space. This wasn't a battle. This was a choice. Remember that when your powers return, you have 50 minutes left to make your decision. Choose wisely. The bridge crew watched as the mighty Council fleet drifted powerless in space, finally understanding what human patience truly meant. Council member Gray watched as Admiral Stone spread documents across the conference table, real paper documents, not digital displays. The kind that couldn't be hacked or altered. The human's face showed no triumph, only quiet determination. These, Stone said, touching the first stack of papers, are copies of every accident report, filed against human ships in the past 50 years. He moved to the next pile. These are the trade routes denied to us without cause. Another stack. And these are transcripts of private council sessions discussing ways to keep humanity contained. Council leader Bright's scales had turned a pale shade of blue. Where did you get these? We had help, Stone said simply. Not every species agreed with your treatment of humans. Some shared information. Others provided technology. A few even helped us build our fleet. Gray's antenna twitched in understanding. The smaller races, the ones we also kept down. Yes, Stone placed a final document on the table. This is our proposal for reform, not just for humans, but for all species the Council has deemed unstable or primitive. The chamber doors opened, and more humans entered. Not military officers, but diplomats carrying more documents. They moved with purpose, taking seats around the table as if they'd rehearsed this moment for years. They had. You threatened us. Council leader Bright protested weakly. No, Stone corrected. We showed you what we could do, then chose not to do it. There's a difference. He gestured to the disabled defense fleet still being repaired outside. We could have destroyed those ships. Instead, we simply turned them off. A human diplomat named Jack opened his briefcase. Our proposal is simple. Equal representation for all spacefaring species, fair trade routes, joint scientific projects, shared defense responsibilities. Impossible. Another council member sputtered. The smaller races aren't ready. Ready? Stone's voice cut through the protest. Like humans weren't ready. Tell me, who decides when a species is ready? Based on what evidence? Gray stepped forward. I would like to see these proposals. The humans passed copies around the table. Real paper, covered in clear, simple terms. No hidden clauses. No complex language. Just straightforward suggestions for making the galaxy fair for everyone. You've had this planned for years, Gray realized. Decades, Jack confirmed. Every detail, every step, every possible reaction. He smiled. Humans are very good at planning when we need to be. Council leader Bright read through the documents, his scales shifting colors rapidly. These terms, they're surprisingly reasonable. Of course they are, Stone said. We don't want to rule the Council. We don't want revenge. We just want what we've always wanted, equality and respect. He paused. For everyone. Gray noticed something interesting. The humans had positioned themselves around the table not by rank or importance, but to be close to specific council members. The ones known to be more open to change. The ones who had sometimes questioned the council's decisions. They'd really had planned everything. And if we refuse? Council leader Bright asked, but his voice lacked conviction. Stone didn't answer. He didn't need to. Everyone in the room had seen the demonstration. Everyone knew what humans could do if they chose to. But the real power wasn't in their ships or their weapons. It was in their patience, their planning, their willingness to spend 50 years preparing for this moment instead of reacting with anger. I move to accept these proposals for review, Gray announced suddenly. Heads turned. In 9,000 years of council history, no one had ever interrupted a negotiation to call for a vote. But then, no one had ever really understood humans before today. One by one, other council members joined Gray. Not because of fear, but because the humans had shown them something rare in the galaxy. Power tempered by restraint. Strength guided by wisdom. The negotiations had only begun, but everyone in that room knew. Nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. 10 years had passed since the day humanity revealed its true strength. The Galactic Council chamber looked different now. Where once only the most powerful species had seats, now representatives from all spacefaring races sat together as equals. Admiral Stone, now retired, stood before a class of young diplomats from 30 different species. His hair had turned completely white, but his eyes remained sharp as ever. Can anyone tell me, he asked, looking at the eager faces, why humans waited 50 years before showing their power? A young alien student raised her hand, her blue scales shimmering with excitement. Because you were gathering intelligence. Partly. Stone smiled. What else? To build your fleet in secret. Another student suggested. That too. But there's a deeper reason. At the back of the classroom, Council Member Gray watched with interest. He had made it his mission to understand humans better, and even after 10 years, they still surprised him. A small green-skinned student spoke up softly. Because you wanted to give peace every possible chance. Stone's smile widened. Exactly. He walked to the window, where ships of all species now moved freely through space. Human vessels flew alongside the same alien ships that had once hunted them. Former enemies now worked together on joint projects. We could have fought back immediately. Stone continued. We had weapons. We had ships. We had allies. He turned back to the class. But war leaves scars that take generations to heal. We chose a longer path because we wanted something more than victory. What did you want? The blue-scaled student asked. Understanding. Stone replied. Real change. Not just in laws, but in hearts and minds. The classroom's holographic display activated, showing images from the past decade. Human scientists working with alien researchers, joint colony projects. Trade ships from once excluded species moving freely through major routes. New council chambers being built with room for even more races. The council thought our patience was weakness. Stone said. But patience, real patience, is one of the strongest forces in the universe. It lets you choose the right moment, the right action, the right words. A chime sounded, signaling the end of class. But nobody moved. Sir, one student asked, is it true you had the Tesla array for 15 years before using it? Actually, Stone chuckled, we had it for 20. The 15-year claim was just to make the council feel a little better. The class laughed. Even Gray found himself clicking his mandibles in amusement. As the students finally began packing up their things, the blue-scaled student approached Stone. My grandfather was on one of the council ships that day, she said. The day of the demonstration. He told me he was terrified at first, but then, Stone encouraged. But then he realized something. You could have destroyed them, but you didn't. You could have taken revenge, but you didn't. You showed power through restraint. She looked up at him. That's why I wanted to become a diplomat. Stone placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Then you've learned the most important lesson of all. True strength isn't about having power. It's about how you choose to use it. As the students filed out, Gray approached his old friend. 10 years, he said. Did you ever imagine it would work out this well? Stone watched the bustling space traffic outside. Ships of all shapes and sizes moving in harmony. We hoped it would. That's why we waited. That's why we planned. That's why we chose demonstration over destruction. And that, Gray said, is why this moment will never be forgotten. Together, they watched the sun rise over the new Galactic Council headquarters, where the words equal rights, equal respect were written in every known language of the galaxy. Humanity's patience had changed everything, and the stars were better for it.